Right, g'day and welcome to another edition of Super Rugby Talk. As always, I'm Jason. Joining me is PK. PK, how are ya?
As always, a pleasure to be here, Jace. Yeah, should be a good show.
Cool, righto. And where can all these lovely people listening to us find us on social media? There, PK.
Yep. So you guys can check us out on YouTube at Super Rugby Talk Live. You can also hit me up on Twitter. I've got a Twitter account, so feel free to ask me any questions or queries at superrugby_PK.
Cool, right. That's good to know. Of course, we're continuing our series on the teams in the Super Rugby this season. Today we'll be looking at the Stormers, the Reds, and the Highlanders. So first up, the Stormers. Lately they've been underperforming, which is not too good. They were 11th last year, and yeah, they've been quite disappointing. PK, what do you think about the Stormers?
Yep, the Stormers are really the underperformers I felt in that South African pool there. Um, Looking at the big players they do have, obviously Dwayne Vermeulen captaining the side this year, and also Damien Dialendi, who was quite good last year. 38 tackle bus, he's a beast in the centre field. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course, you mentioned big players. Also, you got to mention Eben Etzebeth. He's huge, literally, physically, huge player. He'll offer a lot. And also, Saya Khaleesi, the loose forward, did have a few tests for the Springboks. So, are there any other players of note in the forward pack, PK?
You also have to look at Schalk-Burger. He is probably the most experienced guy on that side, and he also offers one of those. He really is one of those team leaders. Um, just to mention, transfers going out. Yet the Stormers have been hit by these transfers, Jace. You got Dion Faree going out. You got Pat Saliers in the front row there. You've got the Cox Stenkamp in the locks. Big losses.
Yeah, huge losses. Yeah, I don't think they'll go very well this year, as usual. I think 10th at the most. They'll be lucky to get 10th, just because their squad's a bit inexperienced. If you look at the Stormers' history, they were runners-up in 2010, of course, that all South African finals against the Bulls, and they made the playoffs in 1999 and 2004. However, they are coached by Alistair Coetzee, who is a rather experienced coach. Was assistant coach for the Springboks for a number of years. So, do you think that'll have any impact on the Stormers this year?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's been really good with them, I feel, but he's probably not really that satisfied with the results of late. Do you reckon that the Stormers are capable of beating teams like the Sharks and the Bulls this year, Jace?
Oh yeah, well, of course, I think they are, especially at home. As we mentioned, they got that good forward pack in with Dwayne Vermeulen and Eben Etzebeth, so I do think they're capable. It's just, will they? Oh, will they show up on the day? Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think they are capable of, yeah, upsetting the big teams. So, yeah, so final thoughts on the Stormers, what do you think?
Wow, you just have to. I think they really are going to be hit hard with these transfers going out. I looked at a recent stat, and there's 800 caps that will be lost this year. Big loss.
Yeah, of course, one of those losses is Jean de Villiers, of course, suffered that horrible injury while playing in Wales. So that's a huge loss. One of the best centres in the world, in my view. Will that have an impact?
Yeah, of course. He was the captain last year, and you really feel, even though Dwayne Vermeulen, he is great, he is a big lad, and he will steer this Stormers team in the right direction for their sake, I hope. But Jace, do you really think they can make that top 10?
Oh, look, I don't think they will. I think they may be capable, but I don't think they will. So what do you think about their final placing in the conference? How do you think they'll stack up against the other South African teams?
Well, I think they are capable of beating the Lions and the Cheetahs in that pool there, Jace. Perhaps having a good competition with the Bulls, but at the end of the day, I think the Sharks are in a different league to them, completely different.
Yeah, well, that's how it's been for the past couple of years, and the Sharks have been dominating the South African conference. Right.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
quickly
so
adding on to that, there, Jay, sorry to interrupt. You got to look out for this year, Cheslin Colby. He's a very elusive, and he is going to be, for me, the one to watch.
cool. Righto, so that's the Stormers. Next up, we've got the Reds. Ever since they won the championship in 2011, they've been quite disappointing. They've just been dropping off ever since then. Yeah, I think they've been disappointing. I don't think they'll do very well this year. They probably should make the playoffs, but I don't think they will because they do tend to choke and have done in the past couple of years. What are your thoughts on the Reds?
Well, agree to disagree there, Jace. I really do think the Reds can do it this year and maybe possibly give those Waratahs a run for their money. You have big guys coming back into the squad. James O'Connor. You've also got the looks of Carmichael Hunt coming over there from the AFL. And a guy you should know quite well, Jace, is Adam Thompson there coming into the Reds this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I did see that Adam Thompson. I think he'll add a lot of experience. He's a big lad. Of course, former All Black. So yeah, I do think he'll add a lot. And of course, you got the Faianga brothers adding a lot. Saya Faianga, the hooker, and Anthony Faianga, the centre. They've got an explosive backline with the likes of Will Guinea, Quade Cooper, Anthony Faianga, and James O'Connor. However, Quade Cooper has just been struck down by another injury. So if Quade Cooper doesn't get much game time, will that affect the Reds season?
Actually, Jace, as you mentioned that, I actually don't think it will. You have James O'Connor there. He's been overseas. He's been kicking his whole overseas career. I think JOC is going to come back and play that 10 jersey.
Yeah, well, I agree there. I think that Quade Cooper's been he's been average in the past couple of years. He had that good year and the good Super Rugby season 2011, but since then he's underperformed. He's made unnecessary plays. He's tried to step every single tackler that comes his way and usually fails. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the guy. I think he's got good potential, but he hasn't played too well in the past couple of years. Of course, the Reds this year being captained by James Slipper. He's had a lot of experience with the Wallabies. Will that help them? Will that help the Reds this season, PK?
Well, that's exactly a question that I was going to ask you, Jace. Do you think James Slipper, being a prop, can lead the backline from the very front row there?
Well, you see, I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about James Slipper, but I do know he's a great forward. Does a lot for the forward pack, but I'm not sure how much he can add to the backline. You know, he's up there. He's in the scrums. He's really digging in, but can he control the backline? That's what I want to know. Do you think he can?
Well, he definitely does have the game time and the experience there to do that. I just don't know if he'll have much knowledge about that, to be honest. But hopefully he does go well. I think maybe the Reds would look to make the playoffs this year. As I said, Carmichael Hunt and James O'Connor bolstering that back line. You also have to look at Samu Karevi, who was a big player last year. He came in late and he played well for Brisbane City in the National Rugby Championship there. And yeah, Will Guinea also is a class scrum half. So yeah, they definitely have the players to do it, and hopefully we should see them in the playoffs going if they go well. That is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I definitely think they got the squad. You mentioned Will Guinea there. The scrum halves, they're not light in the scrum halves. They got Nick Frisbee there as well, who's a class scrum half. But one player you mentioned there is James Horwell. He's an interesting one for me. Former captain of the Wallabies, but just sort of lost his way there after he got injured, and now he's not even captaining the Reds. What do you think about James Horwell?
Well, James Horwell was, for me, he was really good last year. Obviously captaining the side. Yeah, it's going to be a big loss in those lineouts. You have also Rob Simmons there, who should go all right. But yeah, definitely the Reds should make the playoffs.
Yeah, they should make the playoffs. Just from experience alone. Right, final thoughts on the Reds. Do you think they'll do well if they do make the playoffs? How far will they go?
Oh, as I said, definitely worth making those playoffs. Perhaps at max a semi-final. I don't think they have the absolute potential to take out the competition this year, but definitely got something to work on. Also adding on to that, Mike Harris and Jason Woodward going out there. Um, yeah, not really. It's a minor loss. They've got spots filled, so I don't think they'll be worried too much. But yeah, definitely, hopefully, for their sake, they can make the playoffs, Jace.
Cool. It's good thoughts on the Reds, right? The Highlanders. In my view, they're not a bad squad. They were sixth last year. They managed to crack into the playoffs. Unfortunately, were eliminated by the Crusaders in the first round of the playoffs. So in terms of transfers, PK, are they hurt by the transfers or do they benefit?
Well, here we have a look. Big going outs in the front rows. You have big Chris King gone there. Also, Jed Robinson gone. So pretty big losses in that front row. You also got the likes of Josh Beckwith and Jared Howiata going out as well in the lock position. So a few big losses there. They have picked up Waisaki Naholo from Taranaki. He was quite good in the ITM Cup, the big winger there. I've had a look at Dan Pryor, and I really like the look of this young guy from Northland. So he'll look to go big in the flanks also there, Jay. So overall, I think they'll go quite well this year.
Yeah, I think they got the personnel, haven't they? Of course, you mentioned Waisaki Naholo, did well in the ITM Cup. Another man who did well in the ITM Cup last year is Marty Banks. Had a stellar season. Didn't get much game time for the Hurricanes last year, which I think is unfortunate. Of course, they got Bowden Barrett is in the fly half position, so I think Marty Banks should get a little bit of game time. I think he is class. I think he's got huge potential. So what do you think of Marty Banks?
Yeah, Marty Banks has been a bit unlucky with his Super Rugby campaign, I feel, but he really is a class in the ITM Cup, isn't he, Jace? But you feel that fly half position is really hard to crack those starting spots.
Yeah, well, that's right. They've also got like Lima Sopawanga. He had a great season last year for both the Highlanders and Southland. And young Hayden Parker, he's shown that he's got potential. Also, you look at the halves. You got Aaron Smith, the scrum half, and Fumiaki Tanaka. So again, they're not light on that position. They got some good personnel there. So what do you think Aaron Smith will add to the Highlanders this season?
Oh, Aaron Smith, how good was he for the Blacks last year, Jace?
He was great. He had a stellar season. Yeah, he was great.
Yep, really good. Also, he'd like to back that one up this year and hopefully clinch that spot in the World Cup. Now, this guy I like to mention next needs no introduction, Jace. Malachi Fekitoa, wasn't he class last year?
Oh, of course, he had a great year. I got to say, he almost solidified his spot in the second 5'8" position. Of course, moved to number 12. Him and Ryan Crotty did fight over a little bit, but it was good. It was good for him to get some game time while Matanone was injured. Of course, Fekitoa scored that match-winning try against Australia, converted by Colin Slade. So yeah, I think Fekitoa will add a lot. Also, you got to mention the midfield, Sean Treby. He had a good season. Do you think that the Highlanders will add a lot with their midfield?
Oh, definitely. I think the Highlanders have a really well all-around balanced side. You have big forwards and very elusive backs. Also like to mention Richard Buckman, the Barracuda, and Patrick Osborne also. So good guys there, Jace.
Yeah, Patrick Osborne's been a bit unlucky not to be called up to the All Blacks. I do think he's got huge potential. He did almost get a spot last year when the All Blacks were hit by injury. He was called into the wider training group, so he is in the loop. Of course, when you talk about their back line, you can't go past Ben Smith. Had a great year last year. Of course, he's captaining the side now. So, do you think that he can captain the side well, PK?
Oh, I definitely think Ben Smith is the one to be captaining that side. Obviously, with his experience with the All Blacks and just how great he is as a player in general. You know, he really definitely does deserve that captaincy role, Jace.
Yeah, with Ben Smith captaining, there's also co-captaining with Nassim Manu, who plays for Canterbury in the ITM Cup. He regularly does well. So do you think that's a good ploy by the Highlanders having co-captains?
Oh yeah, well especially if you've got someone like Nasi Manu, he truly is one of those workhorses, always taking tackles around the park and not afraid to run the ball hard. So, yeah, Nasi is a really good player. Also, Shane Christie, how good was he for the Marcos, Jace?
Oh yeah, he really added a lot to the Marcos season. They did quite well last year, wasn't he? So do you think that he'll add a lot to the Highlanders, do you?
Oh, definitely. With him captaining the Marcos, I think for me, he's going to be the player of the season. He backed it up with a stellar year with the Highlanders last year, so there's no reason why he can't have a good season this year, Jace.
Well, that's right. And also, in that forward pack, you got Liam Coltman. He's constantly in consideration for the All Blacks. Him and Nathan Harris and the hookers. So how do you think these young up and coming players will do you think they'll add a lot to the Highlanders season there, PK?
Oh, definitely, Jace. You're always going to have young talents coming through these New Zealand squads, and also you have experienced guys there to show them the ropes and get to turn them into professional rugby players, and hopefully, it may grab them a spot in the black jersey.
Well, that's right. Also in the props, you got Ross Geldenhuis. He had a good season for the big South African. He had a good season for Counties Manukau. He's coming into the squad. Brendan Edwards in the prop jersey. He certainly adds a lot. So yeah, they're not lacking in the front row, are they? So do you think that their front row can compete with the likes of, say, the Chiefs and the Crusaders?
Oh yeah, definitely. You also have Kane Hames there, who I forgot to mention. He really is a beast. Yeah, so they have a really good forward pack, Jace, and I think maybe this year the Highlanders playoff chance, but I don't think any further than that.
Yeah, well, what I think about the Highlanders is they've got a good squad, but they are inexperienced. I think that I think they'll be lucky to make the playoffs. But as you said, if they do, they will not go any further than that. Just like last year. So yeah, final thoughts on the Highlanders. What do you think?
Well, they do have a bye the first round, so that is going to come at a big loss. But then they're backing that up with 5 out of 6 home games after that. So they really just have to get those home victories, Jason. Hopefully that can get them across the line.
Well, will those early home games will that affect them? Of course, using up a lot of their home games at the start, which means that they won't have a lot towards the end of the competition. So will that help them or will that hamper them?
Oh no, like I said, they just really do have to get those victories, and hopefully they can get a streak going for their sake, and potentially make those playoffs in the end of the year, providing they can get those away games in the end of the season.
All right, cool. Sounds good. So yeah, I agree with you for the Highlanders there. Cool. So this has been Super Rugby Talk. I've been Jace. He's been PK. Tune in next time. Cool. Cheers.
Bye for now.